By Yu Darvish was masterful, but lost in the excitement was another solid game by the offense. Elvis Andrus led the way against the Red Sox, 4 hits and 3 runs scored as he returned to the second spot in the lineup. With consecutive shutouts, your Rangers look to keep it rolling behind Martin Perez. Texas Rangers baseball is coming up next on TXA 21. The magic of live television finally turns into Saturday right in front of your eyes, and the Rangers host the Boston Red Sox on an absolutely gorgeous night at Globe Life Park. And welcome in, everyone, along with Tom Greaves, Steve Busby. Glad you could join us on this Saturday night of Rangers baseball, and Rangers trying to stretch their winning streak to 3, and they're doing it with great pitching of late, back-to-back shutouts, but also the offense has gotten back in pretty much high gear, and a big part of it, Tom, is Elvis Andrus in that number 2 slot last night.
Well, you know, Wash has been trying to get Elvis back in that number 2 spot. Elvis is off to a slow start this year. He put him back in the number 2 spot last night, and chances are that's where Elvis is going to stay. Last night was an excellent game for Elvis. First time up, he hit the ball hard on the ground to right field. Then he hit a ground ball up the middle. Another ground ball up the middle. The key, as you'll see with these hits, is hitting the ball on a line. That wasn't a ground ball, but it was a line drive. One of the problems Elvis had was too many fly balls. Now he hit 3 sharp ground balls and a good line drive for 4 hits. He's had a 6-game hitting streak, and for the Rangers to really click offensively, they need Elvis batting second. Hopefully last night was what he needs to stay there.
Hopefully that set him off, and he'll just keep on going, and hopefully tonight that Martin Perez will be able to turn things around. He's had a little bit of a rough outing for the last couple, and he is trying to get things going. Elvis Andrus being absorbed by Big Papi out there prior to the ball game. Rangers and Red Sox coming up next at the starting lineup and the first pitch right after this on TXA 21. Sponsored by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your Texas Ford dealer today. Ford is the best in Texas. By Globe Life, the official life insurance company of the Texas Rangers. And by TXU Energy, inspired by you. An 82-degree evening here at Globe Life Park. Rangers having won 2 in a row. They've gotten their home record back up to 3 games over 500. They are 11-8. Rangers come in trailing the Oakland A's by 2 full games in the AL West. But with a win last night, the Rangers vaulting over Seattle back in the number 2 slot by themselves. They've won a couple in a row. Ron Washington's club trying to get to 3 over 500 here tonight. And Martin Perez going out there with a 4-2 record. Here's the lineup that he will face tonight for John Farrell's Boston Red Sox. Dustin Pedroia leads off. Shane Victorino is in right field. The DH is David Ortiz. Mike Napoli, great on-base percentage, batting cleanup and playing first. Johnny Gomes the start in left. Andrew Bogaerts is the shortstop. David Ross catches this evening. Will Middlebrooks bats 8th and plays 3rd. And Jackie Bradley Jr., the center fielder, hits 9th.
And on the mound is Martin Perez. He's had 7 starts this year. Good record, good ERA. 4-2, 3.59 is the ERA. His last 9 2/3, though, haven't gone as well as it was going earlier in the season. 13 runs in his last 9 2/3. Prior to that, he hadn't given 1 up in 26 innings. 13 double play grounders. That's the most in Major League Baseball. So he's just looking to get back on track. Pound the bottom of that strike zone, get his ground balls, and get back into the groove he was in a little bit earlier.
Well, the 23-year-old left-hander out there, and the Rangers defense looks like this behind Martin tonight. CHOO and left, Martin in center, and Michael Choice to start in right field tonight. Prince Fielder at first. Luis Sardinas is the second baseman this evening. Elvis Andrus at short. Adrian Beltre, the third baseman. Robinson Chirinos behind the plate. And Martin Perez is on the hill. Luis Sardinas, his first Major League start. And last night, that tandem right there, the battery of Yu Darvish and J.P. Arancibia, just short of perfect, and not by much. Outstanding performance by both of them, working in tandem and shutting down the Red Sox. Rangers with their second straight shutout of a very good hitting ball club. On Thursday night, it was the Colorado Rockies. Last night, the Red Sox. Underway now, a fastball is in for strike 1 to Pedroia. 1 for 6 in his career against Martin Perez. Dustin Pedroia at 276. A home run, 10 driven in. And the next pitch a bit low. Last time Martin Perez faced the Red Sox was in that 3-game set in Fenway last month. And he got credit for the only win that Rangers got in that 3-game series at the middle game. Little tapper off the end of the bat, down the first baseline. Fielder fields and tags for the out. Pedroia using all of that baseline that he possibly could, but Prince Fielder just covering too much ground, and Pedroia is out. 1 gone.
And another example of Prince Fielder as a big guy, a lot more agile than you would think he is. A couple of quick steps, and he catches the speedy Pedroia, trying to sneak around him. Looked like he was going to make it there for a second, but Prince caught up with him.
No, Fielder handles Pedroia's little tapper. 1 gone. Shane Victorino, the right fielder, will step in. First pitch to him is a fastball for strike 1. Victorino, 250. No home runs, 3 driven in. And on-base percentage not typical for Victorino. Little looper out in the center field. That's going to fall for a base hit. Victorino went out and hit a fairly good pitch. He was out in front of it, but enough to loop it into shallow center. And there's the first base runner of the ball game.
Yeah, he's definitely fooled by the changeup, but he got the bat on it and found a hole.
And what that does, though, it sets up a very familiar situation with Martin Perez on the mound against these Red Sox. You'll remember the game in Fenway that the Rangers turned 5 double plays in 6 innings behind Martin Perez. And Big Papi up at the plate, bounded into one of them. He takes the pitch just a bit low here. It is 1-0. Ortiz at 258 had the only hit of last night's ball game off of Yu Darvish. That a 2-out single in the 9th inning. Victorino, a small lead at first as Perez checks him. A rip and a miss. 1-1. 53 games David Ortiz has played in this ballpark, and a .290 average, 18 home runs. He has driven in 44. And Perez will drive Victorino back with a toss. Red Sox come in a game under 500 now. They're 17 and 18, and they have fallen back to 4th place in the American League East. They're 3 games back in that pace. That gets away from Torino's. Victorino going to second. The throw is late. I don't know whether Torino's got crossed up on the pitch or if he just missed it. He glanced off his glove, and Victorino now in scoring position.
Let's take a look. He just couldn't figure out which way to put his glove.
So that's going to be a pass ball on Robinson Chirinos. And that takes away the ground ball double play possibility very quickly. Count of 2 balls and 1 strike to Ortiz. Rangers now going to a more defined shift against Ortiz. The pitch is low and outside, and it's 3-1. Sardinas now about 20 feet into the outfield grass in right field, and Elvis Andrus playing up the middle, keeping Victorino relatively close at second. Perez checks second base. And a fly ball, pretty well hit to center field, but it's playable. Out there, Leonys Martin makes the catch, makes a strong throw into third, just in case Victorino was thinking about it. And that's out number 2. Actually, I think Leonys just wanted to show folks.
Yeah, that's what I'd be doing.
You get an arm like that, every time you get an opportunity, you throw a laser somewhere.
Yeah, I wouldn't care if the guy was running or not. Yeah, I think if Beltre was all the way back at third base, that ball might have landed right on top of the base. Not a short hop.
So 2 away. Victorino staying at second base. Mike Napoli steps to the plate. Napoli, a .282 hitter. 5 home runs, 20 RBI. The 20 runs driven in, the most on the Red Sox club.
And Knapp had a big year for the Red Sox last year.
0-1.
Hit some home runs, 20+ home runs, 35, 40 doubles, knocked in 92 runs. That was his career high. And the move to first base has really been beneficial for him. You know, his hip was not going to hold up with that kind of a grind behind the plate, but it does at first base, and he's become a pretty good first baseman too.
Pitch is high. It's 1 ball, 1 strike. So Napoli, 3 opportunities to hit against Martin Perez, and he's had 3 hits against him. A string of 29 consecutive ball games that Mike Napoli has reached base safely, and that's second best in the major leagues. 2-1 now. That's reaching base by a hit or a walk, or a hit by pitch. Not all hits. But pretty impressive for Knapp. He trailing only Jose Bautista of the Blue Jays. Bautista had reached base in every game this year, 36 of them at last count for Toronto. Perez a long look in. Chirinos flashing the signs. And the pitch is a little bit low. It's 3-1. Napoli is always eyeballing every pitch coming to home plate. He has a great eye and sees the most pitches of anybody in the American League per at bat. Perez agrees on the pitch. And it's fouled away. That runs the count full. Well, Martin taking everything right to him. Better than 4.5 pitches per plate appearance for Napoli. It's second in Major League Baseball. Pitch tracker showing you the various locations. Again, Martin Perez making an effort to really keep the ball down in the zone. One ball way up and out of the zone. A check of second. And the payoff pitch. A pretty defensive swing by Napoli. Just able to get a piece of it and stay alive.
Yeah, way out in front of that pitch. But he was able to kind of wave at it and make a little bit of contact with it. Throw them, looked like a changeup. Had Nap fooled, but he hung in there. Struck out 187 times last year. He's a little bit prone to the strikeout. He swings and misses a lot, so a lot of times he won't put the ball in play early in the count. Patient, have to throw him a strike. Swings and misses a lot. That leads to seeing a lot of pitches.
Another 3-2, and that is low, ball 4. Well, Napoli draws the 2-out walk. 2 aboard for Johnny Gomes, and Mike Maddox headed out to the mound.
Yeah, you know, you got first base open. You got a guy that's had some hits against you. Probably, other than Ortiz, their most dangerous power hitter in the lineup. So he's trying to make some good pitches to him. Different hitter, you might get him to swing at those pitches, but Nap's a really patient hitter, and he was able to lay off of him.
Mike Maddox out there, and we talked last time, Tom, that Martin Perez pitched, and also when Robbie Ross Jr. pitched, that Mike Maddox much quicker going out to the mound, and I don't mean his speed, I mean when he went out there. At the first sign of any trouble, he'd go out there and talk to both of them and
nip it in the bud, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think Mike felt that maybe these guys were letting things snowball a little bit before he got to him. He's kind of taking care of that. A 2-on, 2-out. Johnny Gomes, the left fielder, steps to the plate, and Gomes in a platoon out there with Grady Sizemore in left field. Gomes playing against the left-handers, and he's had very good success against left-handed pitching. Overall, hitting .225. 2 out of 7 against Martin Perez. First pitch to him, good fastball to the inside corner. Gomes against left-handers hitting .250. Here's the breakdown. Just .205 against right-handers. Oh, 1 pitch. That's a little bit low. 1 ball and 1 strike. Well, Martin Perez getting ready to throw his 20th pitch of this first inning. Red Sox making him work a little bit. 2 on with 2 out. And the pitch tails low and outside. 2-1. Remember that the game that Martin had start before last against Oakland, they made him throw a lot of pitches by not swinging at the changeups until they got 2 strikes on him. And that seemed to be a very effective way to counteract it. That ball's well hit to left center field. Leonis Martin into the alley and runs it down just shy of the warning track. Perez with a little help getting out of the first inning. No runs, a hit, 2 men are left. Half an inning in the books. Red Sox nothing. Rangers coming up on TXA 21. Failed to score in the top of the first. Now the Rangers coming to bat, and here's the Rangers starting lineup tonight. SHIN-SOO CHOO again leading off. He's in left field. ELVIS ANDRUS in that number 2 slot. ADRIAN BELTRE bats third, plays third. Prince Fielder at first base. Alex Rios gets a partial line off. He's DH. Michael Choice to start in right field. Leonis Martin bats seventh and plays center. Robinson Chirinos is catching, and Luis Sardinha is getting his first major league start at second base tonight and batting ninth.
And on the mound, coming off an excellent start, is Jon Lester. Haven't scored a lot of runs for him, but he's pitched very well. He's had 7 starts. Nice 2.59 ERA. He's only 3-4. Last start might have been the best start of his career. Pitched 8 innings, 1 hit, no runs, struck out 15 and only walked 2. And he was at the top of his game, and that was against the A's.
And he fires strike 1 to SHIN-SOO CHOO.
Last 3 seasons against the Rangers, however, have not gone very well. 8 home runs in 26 innings and a 7.62 ERA.
1-1. CHOO now second in the American League with that .340 average. Alexei Ramirez, the White Sox shortstop, moving ahead of SHIN-SOO by a couple of percentage points. 1-2 now the count. CHOO, though, still second in the major leagues with his on-base percentage. It's up almost 480. 2-2 now.
We were talking about Martin Perez getting a lot of ground ball double plays this year. Lester, same kind of a pitcher. Since 2008, he's second in the American League inducing ground balls for double plays. So that's his game as well.
Out of play to the left. CHOO still at 2-2. Yeah, and Lester has kind of reinvented himself a couple of times. He used to throw a lot of cut fastballs and stayed with that. Now he's throwing more two-seam fastballs, tailing action, and that's leading to that ground ball total you were talking about, Tom. And he's also come up with that pitch, the off-speed pitch, to battle left-handers. He had a tough time before with left-handers, or more of a tough time than he should have had. He was able to run the ball in on right-handers, but he couldn't get the ball away to left-handers. And that was kind of a puzzling feature for Lester, but he seems to have counteracted that pretty well. And fouled away again, still 2-2. So CHOO is, you come to expect, having a long at bat. He will face at least 8 pitches from Lester here in the first inning. Another 2-2 pitch. Inside, almost hit him. And the count runs full. No, CHOO trying to get aboard to start things off. ELVIS ANDRUS waiting to be next. Oh, the beard has disappeared.
Good, it looks better. Almost there now.
Lester's payoff pitch. They've got CHOO on the front foot. Well, he's back up and trying to walk that off, the effects of that foul ball.
Talked about Lester's game against the A's. 8 innings, 1 hit, and 15 strikeouts. Since 2003, there's only been 2 other pitchers who have struck out 15 or more and given up 1 hit or less. Yu Darvish is one of them. Brandon Morrow for Toronto is the other one. It's a pretty good game. 1 hit, 15 strikeouts.
Call strike 3. SHIN-SOO CHOO had a couple of calls against him last night that he didn't particularly like, and Bill Miller rings him up on a 3-2 pitch to start off the season.
Yeah, there were a couple of pitches that really weren't even borderline pitches last night that he had called strikes on. Yeah, that's a borderline pitch. It's technically a strike. Sometimes you see it called a strike, sometimes you don't, right at the top of the strike zone. But one thing I'll say, if you know the old adage that guys with a great eye tend to get more calls at the plate, that's not true with CHOO. At least not recently. It's not. He's not getting anything he doesn't deserve. In fact, he's getting some against him that he doesn't deserve.
And ELVIS looks at a tailing fastball for strike 1. ELVIS with that 4-hit night last night raised his batting average some 21 points, now at 248. A bunt, And Lester bouncing off the mound, throws in the dirt, but Napoli able to take the long hop. And Elvis out at first base. Lester, he didn't know better. I would have sworn he was trying to bounce that thing about 15 feet short.
He was very deliberate with it.
Now, 2 away. Let's take a look at the Red Sox defense behind John Lester tonight. Johnny Gomes has started left. Jackie Bradley Jr. in center. Shane Victorino in right field. We saw Napoli at first. Pedroia's at second. Bogarts at short. Bill Middlebrooks, the third baseman, and David Ross behind the plate. Handling the left-hander, John Lester. Here's Beltre, and the first pitch is inside for ball 1. Adrian, first inning RBI double last night. He has enjoyed hitting against John Lester over his career. A 360 average as he looks at a strike. And we told you Bill Miller, the crew chief, is calling the balls and strikes. Vic Carapazza at first. And Adam Hamari at second. Greg Gibson is down the line at third. 1-1 to Beltre. Adrian, a couple of home runs. He has driven in 10. Out of play to the right. It is 1-2. Adrian, this year, of course, you remember he was hurt in the middle game of that series up in Boston. Missed the last game. Hits this one well to left field. Gomes going over to the alley, still on the move, and he makes the catch and sprawls flat on the turf. He hangs on and takes extra bases away from Adrian Beltre. 3 up, 3 down for John Lester and the Red Sox. We go to inning number 2. No score in Arlington. Here at the ballpark, and near capacity crowd filing in still. Sun just about disappeared behind the first base stands. A scoreless game. Martin Perez back to the hill facing Xander Bogaerts to start off, and first ball swinging will ground out to his counterpart. Oh, 1 pitch and 1 away for Bogaerts. And before David Ross steps in, let's welcome Jane Slater in. Jane.
Well, Steve, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about this weather. Absolutely gorgeous day for baseball. Earlier today, Rangers pitcher Tanner Scheppers, along with Rangers alum Herman Duran, joined the city of Fort Worth for the opening day of the inaugural season of the Fort Worth Rangers RBI program. Now, this is really cool. The starting pitcher today, Martin Perez, along with manager Ron Washington and the Rangers Foundation, provided the funds for the league, including uniforms and equipment. Almost 20 teams will be playing in this first year. For more information, you can go to texasrangers.com/foundation. Guys, back to you.
All right, Jane, thank you. Yeah, a lot of good work being done by the foundation. lot of the Rangers, both active and alums, taking part in all that. David Ross, the catcher, up there with the bases empty and 1 out. Pitch misses, 1 ball and 1 strike. Ross, a veteran, he and A.J. Pierzynski taking care of the catching chores. Both of them 37-year-old veterans. Pitch outside to him, 2-1 now. Ross at 182. Both of his home runs this year have come against left-handed pitchers. It's pretty much the starts that he's had is when the Red Sox have faced a left-hander. And 3-1. Martin not able to elevate it into the strike zone. Missing 3 straight down, and he's falling behind Ross. Perez to the wind, and he misses low, ball 4. And a 1-out walk brings up Will Middlebrooks.
One thing that has plagued Martin in a couple of the games where he struggled is too many pitches in the middle of the plate. And we remarked in Matt Harrison's game, almost all the pitches when he missed, if he was trying to throw it on the outside corner, he missed outside. If he was trying to throw it low, he missed low. Not many pitches came back toward the middle of the plate. So even though you don't want to walk anybody, he was trying to keep the ball down, and he missed, and it was down.
Throw to second, right on the money by Chirinos.
We must be teaching that throw.
Oh, he got rid of that. Didn't have time to get to his feet, and Chirinos put it right on the bag.
Well, we've seen JP make the same throw a couple of times. And if you can throw it with that velocity and that accurately, why stand up and take the time? Just go down on one knee and throw it all in the same motion. Beautiful play. I don't think he throws any better than that if he stands up and throws it.
And there's a looper out into right field. That's a base hit. So the shift took one away from the Rangers on that one as Middlebrooks hit it right to where a second baseman would normally be stationed.
He was definitely trying to inside out that ball the other way, so he might not have hit it very well, but he accomplished what it looked like he was trying to do, and that's take advantage of nobody to the right of second base. You don't have to hit it very hard with all that room. Unless the umpire can make the play for you, that's going to be a base hit.
A 1-on-2 out. Here's Jackie Bradley Jr. And first ball swinging, chops one foul down the right side. It is 0-1. Bradley established himself now as the starting center fielder every day. You remember when we saw the Red Sox in Boston earlier in April that Bradley was kind of switching between center and right and sometimes left, and really hadn't settled on a spot. But John Farrell said he's a center fielder. He needs to be out there, and he gets hit by a pitch here for Martin Perez. Fastball tailing in, and Bradley will take the first base on the hit batter.
You got a tougher batter to face now, and right hand hitting Dustin Pedroia.
Just on that back elbow or forearm. Look at him on the forearm.
It really wasn't that far inside. He just started his swing.
And again, Mike Maddox out to the mound very quickly, and try and settle down Martin Perez. Make sure that you refocus on what the task at hand is. I mean, in theory, that's a great idea, but it also is. I would find it a little disruptive as far as the flow of the game, but that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. A 2-on, 2-out. Pedroia stands in 0 for 1 tonight.
I like it. I like the pitchers that just stare at the guy when he comes out to him like, don't even dare come on this mound and talk to me. There's not a lot of guys like that, and you got to have a little track record before you can act like that. But
first pitch to Pedroia is on the outside corner for strike one. Pedroia 0 for his last 8 times to the plate. And you can see with runners in scoring position, not off to a very good start. Pedroia hitting just .226. And that just a little bit wide of the mark. 1-1. Pedroia, the team leader with 40 base hits this year. That's 8th most in the American League. Changeup is high. It's 2-1. Martin Perez working himself into a hole against Pedroia. Pedroia, among the 40 hits that he's accumulated, he's second in the American League with 13 doubles. Got Middlebrooks at second, Bradley at first. The 2-1 pitch. Now 3-1.
He's trying to make a pitch, but he's end up with 35 pitches, only 17 strikes, 18 balls right now. Worked out of a little bit of a jam in the first inning. Got a 2-out jam right here.
If Pedroia is able to keep this inning going, Shane Victorino is ready in the on-deck circle. 3-1 with 2 out. The pitch to Pedroia. Ball 4, lost him. That loads him up, and Victorino coming up. Well, Perez with 2 walks and a hit batter in this inning, along with a base hit. Fortunately for the Rangers, David Ross caught trying to steal second base after that 1-out walk. Victorino single to center in the first inning. Couple of grand slams to his credit in his career. Base is full of Red Sox with 2 outs in the second inning. Time called. Victorino 0 for 4 in yesterday's ball game. He's better than a 300 hitter this year against left-handers. And he takes strike 1. Against the Rangers, 7 games he has teed it up against Texas pitching. Just 2 for 22 with 7 strikeouts. And Martin Perez trying to play on that. There's a good fastball again for a strike inside corner. 0-2 to Victorino. Well, Martin trying to strand the bases full. The 0-2 pitch is on the way. I think Victorino is looking inside.
That's up in Ian Kinsler territory right there.
Yeah.
Same angle anyway.
About 20 rows short.
Yeah, it didn't go quite as far.
That was a swing by Victorino. It says, get out of there. You're not coming inside on me again. Another 0-2 pitch. And another chopper foul down the third base side. And Martin keeping that ball tight on the hands of Victorino. Mentioned last night, Victorino is a switch hitter. Has been his whole career, but he has pretty much abandoned hitting left-handed. That wouldn't come into play against Martin Perez, being a left-handed pitcher. But he is strictly going right-handed. And the changeup drifts a bit low. It's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Perez studying the signs, working from the stretch with the bases full. The left-hander comes to the plate with the 1-2 pitch. Base hit to center field. 1 runs home. Bradley coming to the plate. Here comes the throw. It's a good one. He is out at home plate.
That's the Leonis Martin we know and love. Made a couple of bad throws the other day, but he's on back on track with that one.
Right on the money to Chirinos. Cut down Bradley trying to score. The Red Sox, though, score a run to take the lead. They leave 2 on base. We're going to the bottom of the second. 1-0 Boston. Text your thoughts on Ron Washington's call from the pregame interview to Mark McLemore at 469-209-2121. Left field, Gomes going toward the line, makes the grab on Fielder's opposite field shot, and one pitch, one away in the Rangers' second. Send your thoughts on Wash's call, Mark McLemore at 469-209-2121, and if you read your text on the post-game show tonight, you'll win a $50 Sporting Goods gift card, courtesy of Metro PCS. A one away in the Rangers' second. Alex Rios, the DH, steps to the plate. Boston leading 1-0. Rios now hitting at .312. Takes a strike. It is 0-1. Alex with a couple of home runs, team high 19 RBI. Fouls that pitch back to the screen. Very quickly, it's no balls and 2 strikes.
Lester came into the season with a 156 record, 3.76 ERA. Been a very steady top of the rotation guy for 6 or 7 years. This year he's off to a great start. 8th in ERA, tied for 4th in strikeouts, 9th in innings pitched.
Ball strike 3. Rios got caught looking at that pitch right on the inside corner. And that is out number 2. Second strikeout for Lester.
Perfect pitcher's pitch. Seeing Rios called out now on that pitch, down and in, barely touching the strike zone. SHIN-SOO was called out on a slider that was barely touching the top of the strike zone.
Michael Choice takes the first pitch inside for ball 1. Choice getting his second start of the year in right field tonight. Giving Alex Rios the partial evening off. There's a strike, 1-1. Choice, as you saw, a .243 hitter. Couple of home runs, 13 RBI, and he's been swinging the bat well of late. He has a 4-game hitting streak going. 2-1 now. Choice waiting as the pitch comes in from Lester. 2-2. That pitch and really gives right-handed hitters a tough time.
Yeah.
Working its way down and in. That 4-game hitting streak for Michael Choice. He's gone 6 for 14. That's a .429 average. Called strike 3. Got him on the back door. Back-to-back strikeouts, 3 in the game. Rangers out in order for the second straight inning. We finished 2. It's the Red Sox 1, the Rangers nothing on TXA 21. TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is celebrating 12 years. Join the millions of subscribers and watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Visit TexasRangers.com for more details on MLB.TV Premium. A 1-0 Red Sox lead as we head to the third inning. David Ortiz, Mike Napoli, and Johnny Gomes. First 3 Red Sox to face Martin Perez. High fly ball, well hit to right field. Back of the wall is Choice. That ball's gone. First pitch, David Ortiz goes into the lower home run porch. His 7th home run of the year, and the Red Sox have a 2-0 lead.
A lot of times you'll say about a power hitter, he likes the ball out over the plate, and you have to pound him in. Generally speaking, Ortiz is not that kind of guy. He likes the ball in, and he can turn on it, and hits a lot of home runs on pitches in. It looked like that pitch was in. Let's take a look. Trying to throw it away. Now it's not in. It's right in the middle of the plate where it was. You can see where Robinson's glove was, down and away. That one, instead of being more away than the glove, came right back near the middle of the plate, and Ortiz was able to get the good part of the bat on that one.
David Ortiz now tied with Andre Dawson, Jason Giambi, the all-time spot in the home run chase. Mike Napoli takes a strike. It's 1-1. Towering drive to right and sneaking into the 5th row for Ortiz. And that was one of those pitches, Tommy, you're talking about, that Martin has been missing to the bad side of his intended target.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to miss away or miss on an outside pitch, make it further outside.
Yeah.
And he didn't quite get that there. Napoli drew a walk his first time up. 2-1 pitch to him. Now 3-1. The Red Sox 2 runs on 4 hits. Rangers still looking for their first base runner. A rip and a miss. And the count fills. Napoli, the #4 hitter, batting with the bases empty and nobody out here. Johnny Gomes, the left fielder, prepares to bat next. John Farrell and Stock looking at things. Gets low inside, and Napoli draws his 2nd straight walk. 3 walks in the game. Make that 4 walks in the game now Martin Perez, who's in a little trouble nailing down the strike zone. The skipper trying to figure out what he can do, how he can help Martin Perez turn it around.
You know, baseball is a tough game, and if you're a young pitcher, you go out there 33 times a year. Sometimes you'll go through a stretch like Martin did, back-to-back complete game shutouts, and then you find out something you already know, that it's not that easy, and you go through a little period of time where you're struggling to make the same pitches that you made then. You just have to keep battling through it, and if you've got good stuff and you are someone with perseverance, then after 33 starts it all adds up to a good season. But along the way there's ups and downs, especially for young pitchers.
Johnny Gomes stepping in. Count of 1 ball and no strikes. Gomes hitting out of that wide open spread stance. Napoli at first, nobody out, and the pitch ripped through and missed. Good changeup from Perez. Gomes came up with 2 on and 2 outs in the first and lined one to left center field that Leonis Martin got a great jump on and made the catch in the gap. Napoli being held on by Prince Fielder over there at first. And a foul ball makes the count 1-2. Gomes taking his time getting back in. Johnny Gomes, a big part of that Red Sox run to the World Championship last year. On his fist, and he pulls it foul by Brian Butterfield, the third base coach, and down the line. Gomes had 11 starts during the Red Sox postseason last year, and the Red Sox won 10 of those. Part of their good luck charm. Gomes and Shane Victorino playing a big part of that Red Sox outfield. Low and in, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Martin in a bit of a struggle here. 54 pitches, and this is not the same Martin Perez who towed the hill about 2 weeks ago. It's one of those stretches where he's having trouble getting the strike zone to hang on and be around there. 3-2 now.
If there was ever a time where he needed a double play, this is it. Nobody out in the 3rd inning, zeroing in on 60 pitches already.
The Red Sox have been known to ground into a few double plays. They grounded into 9 in that 3-game series against the Rangers in April in Boston. Got him swinging. Pulled the string, and there's the first strikeout of the night. There's Gomes down flailing at it.
Well, you have to think that the Red Sox coming into this game after hitting into 5 double plays in 6 innings against Martin in Boston came into the game saying, look guys, he likes to keep the ball down. He's got a good sinker. He gets a lot of ground balls. Make him get it up. Don't help him out by swinging at sinkers that are a little bit out of the strike zone. And they're definitely doing that.
Here's Bogaerts, who grounded out to short his first time. Toss over to first, drives Napoli back. Looked like it might have caught Napoli. Surprised that Perez was tossing one over there. Bogaerts, the 21-year-old rookie shortstop for the Red Sox. A strike to the inside corner. Ground ball fly ball ratio in the American League. It's a Ford leaderboard showing you the best averages. Martin Perez 3rd best at 3.04. Ground ball to fly ball. Bobby Ross right behind him. 1-1 the count to Bogaerts. Perez set, check of first. Boy, good tailing fastball that time. 1-2. That's that one. If you make contact, it is a double play.
Yeah, it's going to be off the end of the bat, that's for sure.
Now the 1-2 pitch. Well hit to left field. Going back is CHOO. He is on the track. Reaches up, makes the catch. Napoli was all the way down to second. He has to retrace his steps. And Bogaerts gave it a pretty good ride. But ball not exactly flying out to left field.
Doesn't look like it's carrying to left tonight. There's been a couple of balls hit well that haven't gone as far as we thought they were going to go to left field. And Bogaerts is wishing he was back in Boston.
Yeah.
That one probably up in the screen over the green monster, at least off the top of it. Just a long out in our ballpark.
Oh, 2 away. Napoli still at first. David Ross, catcher, drew a walk his first time up. Changeup that floats to the outside corner for strike 1. Ross making his 12th start of the year behind the plate for the Red Sox tonight. Rip and a miss. 0-2. Ross has fared well against the Rangers. .368 career average. Granted, only 19 at bats coming into tonight, but pretty lofty numbers. 0-2 pitch. Napoli back to first. Ross digging back in the batter's box. Rangers swung around to the left on the infield against the right-handed hitting catcher. Sardinas almost directly up the middle. Call strike 3.
That's better.
Ross knew it. A tailing fastball, and Martin Perez, after the home run and a walk, gets the next 3 in order. After 2.5, the Red Sox 2, the Rangers nothing on TXA 21. Baseball on TXA 21 is sponsored by Sports City Toyota. Log on to sportscitytoyota.com. Part of the new sellout crowd on hand here tonight. Very comfortable evening. The temperature in the low 80s. John Lester to the hill, and Leonis Martin leading off. Bluffs a bunt and takes wide for ball 1. Bottom third of the Ranger order to face Lester, who has retired the first 6 that he has faced here tonight, 3 of them on strikeouts. 1-0 pitch. Now 2-0 to Martin. Leonis, 291. He has an 11-game home hitting streak going. Check out that average. The last 11 games he's hit 395 in this ballpark. A strike makes it 2-1. Martin, third in the American League in overall home batting average at 381. Foul ball up the middle, but that's where Bogaerts is playing. One gone.
Last year, Lester had a good season. He was 15-8 with an ERA under 4. Did his best work in the postseason, though. He had 5 starts in the postseason. He was 4-1 with a 156, including 2 wins in the World Series and an 0.59 ERA. It was a very good season. He was at his best after the season in postseason.
Robinson Chirinos, the number 8 hitter in the Ranger order, steps in there with the bases empty. 1 away in the third and takes a fastball for strike 1. Chirinos at 229. Last 3 games, Robinson falling off a bit. That was after a career high 6-game hitting streak. Chops that next pitch foul. And the count moves to 0-2. Get a little time getting back in there. Now he is set, and Lester to the wind, the 0-2 pitch. 1-2. Lester back to the plate, and that evens the count now at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Last 13 games for Chirinos. You've seen that average go up some 60 points. He's at 267. Bogaerts, the shortstop. 2 gone. Well, a couple of ground balls to short. There are 2 away, and now Luis Sardinas will come to the plate.
Lester's also had excellent control this year. Got one of the best strikeout to walk ratios in the league, almost 6-1. A lot of strikeouts, very few walks. Rangers have faced him at times when his fastball was approaching the mid-90s. He's cruising right now at about 91 or 92. And the way he's throwing now, the movement on his fastball and the cutter that he throws, control that he's got, velocity really kind of an insignificant item for him.
Yeah, it
doesn't make any difference at all.
He went away from throwing all those cut 4-seamers, a straight 4-seam fastball, and really relying on velocity. His strikeouts have gone down. He's had as many as 225 strikeouts in a season. Did that twice, 2009, 2010. A little looper, Pedroia up the ladder to make the catch. Sardinas got jammed, and Pedroia timed it well. So the Rangers again gone in order. Lester's retired 9 straight. On to the 4th, 2-0 Sox.
the ballpark. Real quick, I got to give you a quick update. You know, it's All-Star voting time, and we want Ranger fans to get in their votes, and we've got a special incentive for you. If you vote 25 times online and also indicate the Rangers as your favorite or other favorite, we're going to give you 50% off select tickets in August and September. All you got to do is go to TexasRangers.com/vote. And I've got Austin and Owen here. Who are you voting for?
Big Puppy!
Come on now, he's a Red Sox. All right, Ranger fan, who are you voting for?
Prince Fielder.
Attaboy! You told me Prince Fielder earlier. I think he's trying to throw me off here. We got a suspect Ranger fan. Guys, back to you.
All right, Jane, thank you.
Big Poppy.
Yeah. Little Middlebrooks got looking, and Martin Perez starting off the fourth inning in fine style with the strikeout, his third of the night.
Well, Victorino singled to end the second. Martin threw a man out at the plate to end the inning. Then Ortiz homered, Napoli walked. And since that time, Martin looks like he's starting to zero in on his location. 3 out of 4 hitters have struck out.
And Jackie Bradley Jr. chops one foul down the first base side. It's 0-1. Bradley hit by a pitch his first time up there. And that really prolonged that second inning, gave the Red Sox an opportunity to score. Bradley at 204 with the average. 13 RBI. Perez with a 1-1 pitch. Base hit to right field. Well, Bradley with good speed bangs one through the hole on the right side. He is aboard with the 5th hit of the night off of Martin Perez. Folks, on Tuesday, May 20th, the Rangers play the division rival Seattle Mariners, and the first 15,000 fans, 14 and older, will receive an ADRIAN BELTRE replica jersey from Smile Generation. This is going to be a very popular giveaway, so make sure you arrange to get yours. Tickets are available at TexasRangers.com, or you can call 972-RANGERS to get your seats for that May 20th game. Dustin Pedroia has walked and grounded out tonight. Got Bradley with very good speed at first base. Perez sets, and the pitch is high for ball 1. Pedroia 0 for his last 8. Bradley at first base, knocking some dirt out of those spikes. To center field. Long run for Leonis Martin. He can't get there. Going to third, Bradley. Going to second is Pedroia. And Beltre can't get the handle to make a throw.
Well, Martin was playing Pedroia around toward right center field. The ball wasn't hit exceptionally hard, but he had a long way to go and couldn't quite get to it. He tried to throw on the run to get Bradley, who runs very well, going to third base. He wasn't going to have much success at that. Adrian tried to short hop that ball because he knew Pedroia was going to second, and if somehow he could have short hopped that ball and fired a strike to second, he might have had a shot at Pedroia, but it would have been an exceptional play to do it.
So Pedroia takes the extra base after the single, and that'll force the Rangers now to play the infield all the way in with Shane Victorino at the plate. Victorino is 2 for 2, and he takes strike 1. Last time up, Victorino lined a single to center field with the bases loaded. That scored Middlebrooks, and then Jackie Bradley on the back end of that play was thrown out trying to score from second.
Well, if you anticipate the ability to score a lot of runs in the game, you might play the infield back to play it safe so you don't give up a blooper and a couple of runs. But Lester is coming off the game against Oakland where he pitched 8 innings, gave up 1 hit, no runs, and struck out 15, and he's off to a good start in this game. So Wash is saying, hey, I can't let another run score here. I've got to do what I can to stop that. That's why he's got the infield in right here.
Well, Perez has put himself in a position where he can go for the strikeout now at Victorino. 0-2 the count. There's that little looper you're talking about into right field, a base hit. 1 run's home. Pedroia's coming home. He will score. And Victorino, with his 3rd straight hit, makes it a 4-0 Red Sox lead.
Well, Victorino had a little blooper to center field the first time up. And he's just trying to make a little contact there down in the count. Didn't hit it all that hard, but with the infield in, there's about 30 extra feet of room out there between the second baseman and the right fielder. That's pretty much all you have to do. Just lob one out there, men on second and third, and you pick up a couple runs.
So 4 runs on 7 hits now for the Red Sox. They have scored in each of the last 3 innings. Still just 1 out with Victorino at first, and David Ortiz steps to the plate. Ortiz homered his last time up, his 7th of the year. And also his 19th home run in this ballpark, and that is second all time to Jason Giambi, who has 20 as far as opponents hitting at Globe Life Park. Moving up that career Red Sox home run list. Ortiz just passed Dwight Evans. 1-1 as the pitch floats in over the outside corner. Ortiz now with 19 runs driven in. He's 1 behind team leader Mike Napoli. Rangers again with the overshift on. Didn't want to do it and went around anyway. 3rd inning. First pitch of the at-bat. Martin Perez got ambushed. Trying to get the ball away to him, and the ball never got away. It was intercepted by Ortiz's bat.
Yep, by the sweet spot in that bat.
Ortiz getting set to step back in. 1 ball, 2 strikes the count. Perez ready to work. Checa first. Down the right field line. It's a fair ball headed to the corner. Victorino with good speed at third. He's going to be held there. Into second with a double is David Ortiz. And Martin Perez having a difficult time spotting up the pitches where he wants to. That's going to bring Mike Maddox out again.
Well, it looked like for those 4 hitters, Gomes through Middlebrooks, that things were coming around for him. He had 3 strikeouts out of 4 hitters, but then it's kind of gotten away from him. 4 straight hits, including that pitch, which certainly wasn't intended to be in the middle of the plate, inside part of the plate, hanging there for Ortiz.
Mike Maddox out there to pump up the spirits a bit of Martin Perez, who right now has to feel a little bit shell-shocked. He's given up 8 hits, 4 runs thus far. He's got second and third, still just 1 out here in the 4th inning. 4 consecutive Red Sox have reached base. And Mike Napoli, the hitter, who has walked both times that he's come up tonight. Rangers again with the infield all the way in. First pitch. 0-1. Napoli trying to drive something to the outfield and swung through a fastball. Knapp with 20 runs driven in. He has cooled off a bit of late, but again, right in the middle of that Red Sox order. That's high and tight. 1 ball, 1 strike. Napoli with those walks now has reached base in 30 straight games. He has increased that streak here this evening. Right down at his feet, 2 balls and a strike.
Rangers going to get a little action out in the bullpen. Sean Tollison loosening up. Martin has thrown 82 pitches now and only has 1 out in the 4th inning. He's jamming a lot of pitches into a short amount of time.
Yeah.
No chance for a double play unless it's a fly ball and someone gets thrown out at the plate.
And Napoli out in front of that pitch, fouled it back. It's 2-2. on base percentage leaders. You see Shin-SOO right at the top in the American League. Napoli coming into play today, third. That on base percentage has gone up a bit for Nap since he's walked twice. You got Victorino at third, Ortiz at second. The 2-2 pitch. Got him swinging. And breaking ball down and in, and the fourth strikeout for Martin Perez. 2 gone for Johnny Gomes.
A pretty tough pitch to lay off of. Probably would have ended up being a ball, although it was a lot closer to the strike zone than it may have looked where it ended up when Robinson caught the ball. But from a hitter's perspective, you see that ball and you make up your mind to swing at it. You think it's a pretty good pitch. You think it's going to be a strike.
Johnny Gomes steps in, having flied to left center field and also struck out. Rangers now, of course, with 2 outs, able to put their infield back at normal depth. And the first pitch under the arms of Gomes. Look at the Ranger defense, still shifted a couple of steps around to the left. Prince Fielder very wide of the bag at first. Perez okays the sign. Gomes waiting. To left field. CHOO going over at to play it on a hop. That's going to score a pair as Victorino comes home. Right behind him, David Ortiz, and Johnny Gomes with a 2-run single makes it a 6-0 Boston lead.
Well, it was all Rangers last night, and the Red Sox, at least halfway through the game, are returning the favor tonight. A lot of base runners and a lot of key hits with men in scoring position. Another hit, men on second and third. That's another one that's catching pretty much near the middle of the plate.
And that's going to be the last pitch thrown tonight by Martin Perez. As Gomes able to drive in his 14th and 15th runs with that single. Ron Washington on his way to the mound, and Sean Tollison will be summoned to come in from the bullpen to take over in the 4th inning here tonight. So a tough outing for Martin Perez. He'll have to go to work between starts and get ready for his next one. Tollison coming in while he makes his way in from the bullpen. We'll take a timeout. Back after this on TXA 21. Making the best they can of a tough situation for the Rangers for Martin Perez. Perez out after 3 2/3 innings. Sean Tollison, the 26-year-old North Texas native, on in relief.
14th game for Sean. Been plagued a little bit by the long ball. 6 home runs in 16 2/3 innings. Wash will be looking for a couple of innings here. Try to stretch Sean out a little bit, so he doesn't have to use everybody in the bullpen. Seems like we've been saying that a lot the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Although last couple of games have been much better. Fortunately, the bullpen has had a little bit of a rest the last couple of days.
A 1 on 2 out. Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop, up for his third at bat, and he goes after the first pitch and lifts it out of play to the right. Bogaerts 0 for 2. He's grounded to short and fly to left field. So for Martin Perez, 3 2/3, 9 hits, 6 runs. All of them earned on his ledger, and Victorino at first, or I should say Gomes at first, is his responsibility. 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. Pitch outside. It's 1-1. Bogaerts hitting at .259 as he faces Tollison. Two balls and a strike. Sean Tollison, the Baylor X, seeming calm things down as far as the Red Sox are concerned. And he gets a fly ball to right field. Michael Choice drifting in and over, under it, makes the catch, and that'll do it. Red Sox out in the fourth. They score 4 times and strand 1. Bottom of the fourth coming up. Red Sox 6, Rangers nothing. Skipper Ron Washington on Monday, May 19th from 6:30 to 7:30. He'll be at the Metro PCS location, 2605 West Airport Freeway in Irving. And Wash will be signing autographs. And you can register for a chance to win a baseball VIP experience with him at a future game. First ball swinging, SHIN-SOO Choo drives one to center over the glove of Jackie Bradley, and Choo rocketing one, a short hop off the wall for a leadoff double. The Rangers have their first baseman.
Well, I'll say we've seen some balls hit pretty well today that haven't gone anywhere. That one jumped because Bradley got a decent jump on it. He can really run, but he couldn't run this one down. And some things are becoming more of a trend than just a short-term thing, and that's the way he's swinging against left-handed pitching. We've got a guy that's hot right now with a one-hitter in 8 innings against Oakland, and SHIN-SOO drives one 400 feet to dead center field for a double. Continues to be one of the best hitters in the league against left-hand pitching, left-hand hitters or right-hand hitters.
Yeah, SHIN-SOO's kind of thumbing his nose at that .215 average last year.
I guess so. Yeah, he's going to turn his lifetime average into something much more than that if he keeps hitting like this.
Now Elvis up there takes inside for ball 1. The Rangers with their first base runner, first hit or walk, and they've got Choo out there at second. Elvis tried to bunt his way aboard first time, but he was thrown out by John Lester. Elvis at 246 as Lester readies himself. Ground ball to the right side. That's going to get CHOO over to third as PEDROIA throws out ANDRUS. Well, that is out number 1, and CHOO down at third for ADRIAN BELTRE.
Well, it wasn't a base hit, but it was another solidly hit ground ball. Saw that last night. 3 ground balls and a line drive over the right fielder's head for 4 hits.
BELTRE steps in, having flown out to left center field. Johnny Gomes took probably extra bases away from BELTRE, stabbing a long drive off the bat of ADRIAN. The first pitch inside for ball 1. BELTRE trying saying something to David Ross. Ross almost threw the ball over the head of John Lester, getting it back to the mound, and he kind of let one sail on him. The 1-0 pitch is on the way. 2-0. Doing a little tap dance up there. BELTRE with 10 runs driven in. Trying to increase that. Red Sox behind Lester, playing the infield back. They will give up the run for the out. The 2-0 pitch. Now 3-0. Well, Lester all of a sudden getting into territory we have not seen him venture to tonight. John Farrell has seen his left-hander not walk anybody. He's gone 3-0 to BELTRE. And the pitch. Low ball 4. And that's a walk you won't see Lester have very often.
You wouldn't think so. He's only walked 10 batters in over 50 innings this year. But, you know, it feels like a drubbing at the hands of the Red Sox. But if Prince gets one up in the air like Big Papi did, all of a sudden it's a 6-3 game with 5 innings to go. So you never know in baseball.
Exactly right.
Dominated through 3. But a long way to go yet.
Yeah, he got the first 9 outs pretty handily, but there's 27 in the game.
That's right.
So here's Fielder, who went the other way with authority his first time, flied out to deep left. And if you're looking for good signs in and out, that was certainly a good sign, because Prince started to use the entire park. Drives this from the left center field. That's going to be deep enough to score CHOO. Goes with a catch. CHOO tags, comes down the line to cross home plate. The throw goes into second. And Prince Fielder with a sacrifice fly makes it a 6-1 Red Sox lead. Fielder driving in his 14th run. The Rangers chip away a little bit. Get 1 bat. Now we'll see if Alex Rios can keep this inning going. He's got BELTRE at first with 2 away. Rios called out on strikes in the 2nd inning. Lester a check of BELTRE, who has a modest lead at first. And the pitch is low for ball 1. Rios came into this game against left-handers, hitting 5th best in the American League at 429, actually tied for 4th with Jose Altuve. Takes that pitch outside. It's 2-0. Now Ross is going to go out and say something to Lester. John Lester, quite a story. I'm sure most of you are aware of the cancer that he had to overcome back in 2006 in a form of lymphoma that he had to battle. And what a great story. This young man started a group called Never Quit, and it's for cancer folks, cancer survivors, and people that are dealing with cancer. A very uplifting, a positive experience he is providing for a lot of people. 2 balls, no strikes, the count. The check of first, and the pitch to Rios. 2-1. back over the last 3 weeks plus of play. 21 ball games. Rios is hitting .338. Checked his swing. That breaking ball running off the plate inside. The appeal down to first, and Victor Pazos, nope, no swing. Well, the count is 3-1. Well, Tom told you, Lester averaging less than 2 walks per 9 innings. He has Beltre at first, whom he walked. Now he's got a 3-1 pitch to Rios. And a drive to right center field. Going in the alley, it's over the head of Bradley and all the way to the wall. Beltre around third will come in to score. Headed for third, and in with a slide is Rios. And Alex Rios, an RBI triple. It's now a 6-2 Boston lead.
It's such a funny game tonight. We've seen several balls that looked like they were going to jump into the alleys for hits that were caught. And that line drive was a little bit like CHOO's line drive. It just took off on Bradley. It looked off the bat like a well-hit ball that Bradley would have a chance to go over and catch in right center field. But even with all his speed, this ball just jumps off Alex's bat and shoots right over his head. He gets a pretty good jump. He's actually shading him toward right center field. But that just carried right on over his head.
He's just playing him too low. Got to play higher a little bit.
Need to be as tall as Dave Winfield. Would have caught that ball.
Now Alex Rios with his 3rd triple of the year. And Rangers doing a little more chipping in this inning. 2 runs across. Rios at third with 2 outs. Michael Choice stands at the plate. 0 for 1 tonight. Lester still from the stretch. And Choice trying to drop one down that right field line, but he dropped it in the second row out of play. 0-1. Now we've seen Michael Choice really use the entire ballpark from line to line and hit the ball hard from line to line. That's one of the reasons why he has been swinging the bat so well, or having so much success of late. A tough out. Lester okays the sign. He's ready for the 0-1. A ball and a strike. Michael Choice with his average is as high as it's been since back on the 2nd of April. Takes that low and inside. 2-1. All of a sudden, Lester, who was cruising through three perfect innings, gave up the leadoff double, got a ground out, then a walk. And that walk really set the stage for another run to score. Vince Fielder got the sac fly, and then the RBI triple by Alex Rios. And the pitch outside, 3-1 to Choice.
Big gap in left center field. You got Bradley shading around considerably toward right center field. Good hitter's count right here for Michael. Get a fastball and drive it in that gap out there. See if he can make it all the way to third.
The next pitch. Takes it low, ball 4. And that puts runners at the corners for Leonys Martin. Second walk of the inning by John Lester. And I think even more importantly, he's been behind the last 4 hitters.
Yeah, he retired the first 9, 3 on strikeouts. And then CHOO got the inning started. Rios tripled and looking for a key hit right here.
Leonys Martin grounded out to short his first time, and one of the best hitters average-wise with runners in scoring position this year. He's hitting .344 in these situations. Got Rios at third, Choice at first. 2 outs, a couple of runs across for the Rangers. Check swing on the breaking ball, and he went around. It is 0-1. Again, Martin, a great home average. He is really good in this ballpark. Opponent average through the lineup the first time, the best of all of them. He's fouled back.
Rangers kind of turned that around on him.
Yeah, that's the thing about statistics. You know, They'll tell you a mural. They'll picture a mural, but take a snapshot like tonight. They may have nothing to do with it.
No.
May not be able to tell you anything about it. It's the beauty of the game. 0-2 pitch is wide. It goes to 1 ball and 2 strikes. Rangers 2 runs on 2 hits and 2 walks in this inning. They are looking for more with runners at first and third. Lester set for the 1-2. Inside corner, call strike 3. Our team didn't think so. He's going to argue a bit with Bill Miller. But he is gone on strikes. The Rangers score twice on a couple of hits they strand to. On to the 5th we go. It is now 6-2 Boston. Say 21 is sponsored by Standard Insurance. Call Standard today. And by Freedom Dodge. Nobody beats a Freedom deal. Nobody. The Rangers clawing their way back into this and making the folks happy out here at Globe Life Park. Night before Mother's Day. And speaking of Mother's Day, there's still about 6,000 tickets left for tomorrow afternoon's game, a 2:05 game. Red Sox and Rangers on Mother's Day afternoon. Call 972-RANGERS or go to TexasRangers.com if you'd like to get some seats and bring Mom out to the ballpark. David Ross starting things off against Sean Tolleson. In the bottom third of the Red Sox order. The pitch is outside. Ross has walked and struck out. Tolleson came on last inning to relieve Martin Perez. Got the final out as he got Bogarts to fly to right field. A good fastball at the knees, and it's 1-2. Ross, a 176 hitter as he steps back in. Tolleson agrees with the sign. Misses outside with a breaking ball. 2-2 the count. Richard Ross hitting better against left-handers this year, hitting 143 against right-handers. Limited number of at-bats. Foul back to the screen, and the count is still even. Ross back in. Tolleson ready to work. Got him swinging. There's some good heat from Sean Tolleson. Gets his first strikeout. One away for Will Middlebrooks.
Take a look at the pitch that does it. Just a good fastball, threw it right by him. A lot of controversy in last night's game, Buzz, with that official scorer's call. Steve Weller, the official scorekeeper, did a lot of research into that call. And, you know, some of the people involved, like David Ortiz, said that's been a rule for 100 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's really not a rule. You may have seen a ball that fell in like that was ruled a hit. But the rule actually says it is not necessary that the fielder touch the ball to be charged with an error.
And that's in the rule book.
This is the rule book.
Yeah.
If a fly ball falls untouched, and in the scorer's judgment, the fielder could have handled the ball with ordinary effort, the official scorekeeper shall charge such fielder with an error.
Yep.
Now, the fact that that doesn't always happen doesn't mean that he doesn't have the right to do that. And that was certainly a ball that, with ordinary effort, Alex Rios could have made that catch, and he said the same thing after the game.
Yeah,
he regretted that he didn't take charge, call for it, and catch it. And the ball only landed a couple of feet from him. So there really is no rule. David Ortiz may have felt like he's seen balls like that called hits, and that's fine, but the rule actually says the exact opposite.
1-1 to Bradley. Now 1-2.
A little surprised that a guy with 2,000 hits is going to appeal that to the league to try to get that 200-foot fly ball turned into a single.
It's all about putting up individual numbers.
Yeah,
when that takes precedent over winning a ball game.
Yeah, that's a little embarrassing, especially a guy with his great reputation.
Yep. Elvis fires on to first, and for the first time tonight, the Red Sox down in order. John Tolleson gets them 1-2-3. We're halfway through the game. Rangers coming back. It's 6-2 Boston. Fifth inning, and Steve Weller, who was the official scorer last night, we are the subject of our Globe Life quote tonight. He said, since the play happened, it broke up a perfect game, and the amount of emphasis that was on this. Steve said, I called the Elias Sports Bureau. They reviewed the play and agreed with the call. Steve was a very, very competent, solid official scorer.
And conscientious.
Made
the call he needed to make.
Even though the Elias Sports Bureau has no authority on scoring, they still are the keeper of the stats, and certainly they are a good source of information if you're looking for the proper calls. And Steve Weller did everything he possibly could to get that call properly. Here's the play we were talking about. 20 straight had been sent down at this point by Yu Darvish. That ball right in between, and You know, Alex Rios said, look, I stopped. I thought that it was going to be an easier play than it turned out to be for Rougned Odor. And he said, that's my play to make, and I didn't make it. And he said he was in complete agreement with the call. So he felt that should have been an error.
Yeah, I think when that ball was hit and while it was in the air, he just made the assumption that Odor was going to catch that ball, kind of lost track of where the ball actually was, because he still had time, if he saw the ball was going to be over Odor's head, to make that call right at the end. He was so close to the ball to catch it, but obviously that didn't happen, and he took responsibility for it. That's what you want to see. The appeal of that call won't be worth the paper that it's written on, and it's just a waste of time. That appeal is not going to be upheld. And if you watched any of the shows last night, you may have seen one of the commentators say that's the worst official scorekeeping call he's ever seen, and then on that show and other shows you may have heard others say that was the right call. So, you know, baseball provokes controversy, but from our perspective, we stand behind Steve and his call.
Sure do. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me which way it, you know, whether I'm for a perfect game or against a perfect game. That has no bearing on it. If that's the right call, that's the right call. Chopper down to third and foul as Middlebrooks got to the ball just after it crossed the line. Sardinas coming back with a count of no balls and 2 strikes. Robinson Chirinos lead off with a strikeout. And there's a little chopper that's the width of the glove foul. Sardinas pop out to second, his first time to the plate. Lester into the wide, the 0-2 pitch. He'll come back and try it again. Lester approaching 70 pitches. He had a very minimal pitch count before that 4th inning. Gave up a couple of runs on 2 hits and 2 walks. Now he's trying to settle back into it. Base hit to right field. Sardinas going the other way with authority. Pokes one through that hole. Sardinas aboard a 1-out single. That takes the Rangers back to the top of the order. And SHIN-SOO CHOO.
Well, stroke single to right by the youngster. Nice job of hitting right there. Nice swing. Well, he just put some men on base last inning. Martin was called out with men on first and third on a very borderline pitch. Don't blame him for being upset. The Rangers trying to get another rally going against a very good pitcher right here in back-to-back innings.
And SHIN-SOO CHOO was the one that started that 4th inning rally. He doubled off the wall in center field. Takes that first pitch off the outer edge for ball 1. But CHOO 1 for 2 tonight. That average at 343. Talking about the numbers for CHOO against left-handed pitching. Came in at 432, and that has gone up a bit. He takes a strike. That was good for 3rd at the time in the American League. Against the Red Sox, CHOO has had his way with Boston pitching to a 462 clip. That's high. It's 2-1. Well, Lester, since CHOO's double, has struggled a bit. CHOO was the first base runner against him. And Lester, since then, has had a couple of walks and been behind a lot of the hitters that he's faced. Out of play to the left. That evens the count at 2-2. Inning by inning, Lester had it pretty well going. The first 3 innings, not a problem. 37 pitches was all he needed. And 22 in the 4th. And now with 1 out here in the 5th inning, he's had to use 12 to get to this point. Got him swinging. A good fastball away, and CHOO becomes the 6th strikeout victim for John Lester. And brings up Elvis.
That's a great fastball. trying to throw it away. He gets the ball away with something on it. Perfect pitch. That's what he was trying to do.
Elvis 0 for 2. A couple of ground outs. One actually a bunt in the first that Lester fielded. Last time up, Elvis grounded to second base. That's Sardinas with good speed at first. 2 outs. And the pitch inside. Ball 1. Elvis with 4 hits last night. The first 4-hit night or 4-hit game for any Ranger this year. He's going to add one more there to center field, and Bradley just does cut it off. Sardinas being waved around third. Here comes the throw, not in time. And Elvis with an RBI double again. The Rangers score with 2 outs, and they cut the lead to 6-3.
Yeah, this is an entirely different approach to hitting for Elvis in the last couple of days. He's hitting everything on the ground or everything on a line. Last night he had 4 hits. Tonight he bunted for an out, but hit a hard ground ball to second. And this is obviously a line shot into the gap to left center field, hit with some authority too. So you don't see the little topped ground balls to third base, and you don't see the lazy fly balls to right center field. Seeing everything hit sharply, either on the line or on the ground. That's a great sign for Elvis.
First pitch to Beltre is low and outside for ball 1. Adrian drew a walk and scored his last time up. Well, Beltre 0 for 1. Rangers now 3 runs on 4 hits. And it's all coming on the span of the last 11 hitters against John Lester. Elvis at second. The 1-0 pitch is coming from the left-hander. Now a throw down to second base, and just in under the tag by Pedroia is Elvis Andrus.
Throw right on the bag. That would have been a close play. Ross saw a little bit of daylight, so did Pedroia. Pedroia probably made a little signal that let's throw down there and see what happens. But Elvis got back all right.
A 1-1, the count to Beltre. And a chopper foul runs the count to a ball and 2 strikes. Mentioned Adrian against Lester over the years has had good success. A home run in 9 hits, 9 for 25 coming in. And see the numbers with the Rangers runners in scoring position at 254 for the club. Lester's next pitch to Beltre. Call strike 3. Lester catching the inside corner, and he ends up striking out the side to the disbelief of Adrian Beltre. Rangers get a run on a couple of hits and lead one. We go to the 6th, 6-3 Boston. is sponsored by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your Texas Ford dealer today. Ford is the best in Texas. And by Globe Life, the official life insurance company of the Texas Rangers. Now the Rangers have climbed back into the vicinity of the Red Sox. It's now 6-3. John Tolleson back to the hill. Has retired all 4 Red Sox he's faced. Now to the top of the Boston order, and he fires a strike to Dustin Pedroia. Pedroia 1 for 2 in this ball game, singled in the 4th and came around to score. He's also walked and grounded to first. 1-1. Aaron Porreta, the left-hander, is starting to loosen in that Ranger bullpen. Tolleson back to the plate. He misses outside. Pedroia only 1 at bat before tonight against John Tolleson. Matter of fact, very few of the Red Sox have seen Tolleson before the last series in Fenway. Tolleson falls behind, though, 3-1 to Pedroia. Right-hander sets, and the pitch. Outside, ball 4, Pedroia with a leadoff walk, and that never is good with his Boston lineup. Nobody out. Victorino coming up. Let's say hello once again to Jane Slater. Jane?
Well, Wednesday, May 21st is a special day out here at Globe Life Park, especially if you're a weather lover. That's because it's Weather Day, and it's special because CBS 11 and TXA 21 are sponsoring this. Chief Meteorologist Larry Mowry has an educational weather lesson before the game. That's a 1:05 first pitch, and it's your only chance to get one of those matinee games in this season. So go to TexasRangers.com to purchase your seats and get that weather lesson that many fans probably hadn't had in a couple of years. Guys, back to you.
All right, Jane, thank you. Weather out here tonight, you can take a lesson on. Very comfortable, 79 degrees. We're going to be wishing for that in about a month and a half.
Yeah, maybe not that long.
Well, Mike Maddox, a visit to the mound. He has since departed. Dustin Pedroia at first. Shane Victorino is the hitter, and Tolleson going to work on Pedroia. Victorino, a big night tonight. He's 3 for 3. All 3 have been singles. He has scored a run. He has driven in 3. So 6 RBI now for Victorino. There goes Pedroia. The hit and run is on. The throw to second. Pedroia is out from here to Grand Prairie. Second caught stealing for Robinson Chirinos tonight.
Well, Wash enjoys talking about the progress that Robinson has made from the time he got here to what you see right now. And he talks about the work that Benji Molina has done with him, the aptitude, how hard he's worked. And this is a big jump for him, going from a guy that's played different positions but really has never had an opportunity to be a regular catcher at the big leagues or anything remotely like that. But he's getting a lot of playing time now, doing a great job working with the pitchers, and he's throwing the ball well too.
The 1-1 pitch to Victorino. Fouled back. It's 1-2. Well, Victorino on that hit and run got a pitch that was almost impossible for him to get wood on. He got that pitch working its way down and in right about his shoe tops. That's got to be a helpless feeling for a guy like Pedroia, too, going down there and watching what's happening and saying, oh, shoot.
Better be a bad throw.
Yeah. Out of play to the right. Still 1-2. Yeah, this isn't going to work out very well, the rest of this play. Well, John Tolleson with the caught stealing, erasing the leadoff walk to Pedroia. Right-hander with the 1-2 pitch again. In the air to left field. CHOO got a good read on it. Jogs in, makes the grab. That is out number 2. And it will bring up David Ortiz, and he may not be facing Sean Tollison as Ron Washington is coming out. He had Aaron Pareda loose in the pen, and so he wants the lefty-lefty matchup. Skipper crossing the line, says, I want that left-hander coming on in here. And Sean Tollison does a good job. He gets 6 outs and does not give up a base hit, a walk, and 1 strikeout. He will depart with nobody on base, 2 away in the 6th. So Pareda coming in, and while he makes his way in from the bullpen, we will take a timeout. Back after this on TXA 21. Pepper once again brings you savings when you visit Globe Life Park this year. Enter Dr. Pepper as a coupon code at TexasRangers.com/specials. Or you can bring any Dr. Pepper can to the ballpark for savings of at least 25% on most Sunday through Thursday games. The offer is good through July, and it's a perfect way to see the Rangers play the Mariners coming up May 20th and 21st. You got him dancing in the aisles here at Globe Life.
All right.
Aaron Pareda is on now to face Big Papi.
All right, Aaron's done a great job. 7 innings. No runs. Big Papi's thinking about bunting. Go for it, Big Papi.
He must have gotten the scouting report on Pareda that said a big sweeping breaking ball at about 96 on the fastball. Pareda with the 0-1. And nothing in 2. Ortiz tonight has doubled and homered. He has scored twice, driven in 1. 2 for 3. Rangers, of course, in that big shift now with nobody on. They've got everybody on the right side of the field. Had their breaking ball that Ortiz wouldn't bite on. See Luis Sardinas, he may be 40 feet out there in right field this time. One and 2. Now the count is even. Pareda with the big arm out of Northern California, just inland from the San Francisco area. 2-2 pitch. Elvis.
Why'd you hit that one last night?
Yeah. And that will do it. Tollison and Pareda end up getting a 1-2-3 6th inning. Right after 5.5, it remains the Red Sox 6 and the Rangers 3. Time for the Sonic Slam inning, brought to you by Sonic. Tonight's jackpot is worth $200 and dinner for two at Sonic Drive-In. Tonight, the Rangers are hitting for Nora Brennicke from Hearst. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam during the inning, Nora Brennicke from Hearst will win $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. Well, here's one of the guys that can get you a slam real fast on the Sonic Slam inning, and that's Prince Fielder. Fielder 0 for 1 tonight with an RBI on a sacrifice fly. 14 runs driven in. Facing Lester for the third time this evening. And the breaking ball is wide. It is 2-0. Lester just crossing the 80 pitch plateau. 51 strikes, 29 balls thus far. Fielder waiting, Lester. A long look, now the 2-0 pitch. 2-1. Well,
the Rangers have done a nice job of working their way right back into this game. Lester cruised 9 up, 9 down through 3, had a 6-0 lead, and now it's a ball game.
Yep,
Lester's got a game on his hand now.
Fielder off the end of the bat, shallow center, backing out Bogarts, and the shortstop makes the grab. That is out number 1. Now Alex Rios will come up. Rios, an RBI triple in the 4th inning. His third 3-bagger of the year, and that accounted for his 20th RBI. He's gotten that batting average down, 314 as he faces Lester. Well, the strike at the knees. Well, Rios 1 for 2 tonight, and his average against left-handers at 429 coming in has gone up. 1-1. Don Lester, the 30-year-old from Washington. Back to the plate. And a fly ball to right field. Almost dead in his tracks, Shane Victorino. There to make the grab. 2 gone for Michael Choice.
Right fielder, Michael Choice.
That's the first activity Victorino has seen tonight in the outfield. Michael Choice 0 for 1. He walked his last time up there, struck out in the 2nd. Well, the Rangers able to put together a couple of hits and score with 2 outs in the 5th. See if they can get something going here and punch something else across in the 6th inning. Broken bat liner up the ladder goes Pedroia, and he comes down with a baseball. 3 up, 3 down for Lester. Rangers gone in order. We're going to the 7th inning. It remains the Red Sox 6 and the Rangers 3 on TXA 21. 21 is sponsored by Freedom Chevrolet. Nobody beats a Freedom deal. Nobody. Well, a sellout crowd on hand here tonight. 47,964. That's nice. The whole family out. For a little bitty Ranger fan. Correa goes to work here in the 7th inning. He faced Napoli, Gomes, and Bogarts. And Napoli takes strike one. Mike 0 for 1. Struck out his last time up after walking the first 2 trips to the plate. Correa's next pitch to him. Some high heat. Napoli couldn't catch up. 0-2.
Oh, a nice smooth delivery, and the ball just jumps out of his hand at 96 miles an hour.
Correa nods in agreement, sets at the belt. The 0-2 pitch. Come back and try it again. Napoli tuning that up at 96 to catch up with that high fastball. Napoli currently hitting at an even 280. Facing the 27-year-old Aaron Correa. Got him on the fist. Beltre charging from down under. Throws him out.
That's pretty to watch him make that play.
Well, Mike Napoli retired to start things here in the 7th. And Johnny Gomes will come up. This is baseball poetry in motion.
Yeah, it really is. All smooth in one motion. Got a lot of opportunities to see Adrian make that play. It's been fun watching him play.
He's an amazing athlete. Johnny Gomes, a big 2-run single that capped off a 4-run 4th inning for the Red Sox. Gomes 1 for 3 tonight. 1 ball, no strikes. For Gomes now 15 RBI. Batting average is, you see, at 230 as he faces Pareda. Here's a strike, 1-1. Pareda missed all of last year. He had shoulder surgery. Signed as a free agent with the Rangers last October. He just threw that fastball right on by Gomes at 97 miles an hour. Aaron ready. And the 1-2. Gomes back in. Pareda set to work. Check swing. Call and strike 3. Got that hook on the inside corner. Pareda gets his first strikeout, 2 away.
You can't say enough for the job that Aaron has done since his call up. Oh, he's been solid almost every time out. Zipped that ball right in on the inside part of the plate. Borderline strike. Probably could have ruled it that he swung at it anyway. Nice pitch.
Xander Bogaerts up there now with the bases empty and 2 away. And he fouls off that first pitch. Let me correct one thing I said about Pareda. He was the one that had the elbow reconstruction in 2012. I said it was shoulder, and I was mistaken. And no, they aren't interchangeable.
If you had to have one, I guess you want the elbow, don't you?
They've had much more success with guys coming back inside 1-1. Or at least there's more assurance if you're going to have the Tommy John, the ligament replacement surgery, that you're going to be able to get back to pretty close to 100%. Shoulder is still 60, 62%. 1-1. Off speed, and that drops in. Bogarts tonight 0 for 3. He has flied out a couple of times and grounded to short. Well, the combination of Tollison and Pareda have come on to really shut down the Red Sox the last 3 innings. Shot foul. We'll try it again at 1-2. Pareda not only missed all of last year, but the majority of 2012 having that surgery. Last full season he pitched in 2011 was at Tucson, with AAA affiliate. Got him swinging.
Sure.
Yeah, good hard breaking ball down and in. Pareda sends him down 1-2-3. He has a couple of strikeouts. Now please join Chuck Morgan, Director of In-Park Entertainment, as he announces the singing of God Bless America.
Baseball, as we pause to honor the men and women of armed services both at home and around the world.
Baseball on TXA 21 is sponsored by Honda and the Spring Into Honda sales event, and by Frost Banking, Investments, Insurance. John Lester back to the hill, and he will be facing Leonis Martin to start things off here in the Rangers' 7th inning. First pitch, a breaking ball that is outside for ball 1. Martin tonight 0 for 2. Ground ball to short. And a strikeout. And Lester misses low and away. 2-0. Martin starting the bottom third of the Ranger order. He'll be followed by Robinson Chirinos and Luis Sardinas. And Lester misses low and outside. 3 balls and no strikes. And this is what got Lester in trouble in the 4th inning. Kind of lost command of the strike zone uncharacteristically, and the Rangers took advantage. And were able to put a couple on the board. 3-0 pitch. Ball 4. Wow. 4-pitch walk. And Leonis Martin aboard to start things off.
Walked the left-hand hitter. 4 pitches. Mentioned a couple of times tonight how he's had excellent control this year, and pretty much in his career. Only walked 10 batters in 7 starts coming into this game. And he's now walked 3 in the last 3 innings, 3+ innings.
Andrew Miller, the hard-throwing left-hander out there in the Red Sox bullpen, getting loose. Robinson Chirinos 0 for 2, a ground out and a strikeout. And that first pitch inside for ball 1. Chirinos checking with Gary Pettis down at third. Relaying some signs over to Leonis Martin at first, and Robinson Chirinos at the plate. Lester with the 1-0 pitch. And that finds the zone. 5 consecutive pitches out of the strike zone to start the inning. Now the Rangers able to go back to work with a runner on and nobody out. Martin establishing a pretty good lead at first base. Going away, 2-1. .222 the average for Robinson Chirinos. Trying to move Leonis Martin around the base paths. That time called. Leonis reading Lester. And Lester to the plate. Up the middle, Pedroia diving catch. And back to first is Leonis Martin. Boy, Chirinos hit a bullet. And great reactions by Pedroia.
Oh, that's too bad. That was a good approach that time. Went back through the middle with a line shot headed for center field. And Pedroia was there to snare it.
Sure, you can hit a ball much harder than that.
Nope, right on the nose.
No, one very hard out. Martin did a good job of reading that ball and didn't get doubled off. Luis Sardinas singled his last time up. And rips through a fastball. It's 0-1. Sardinas in his second tour of duty this year with the Rangers. 2 for 5. This is his first start ever at the big league level. Also with the Rangers back from the 19th of April to the 26th. Lester a check of first. And Sardinas a rip and a miss. 0-2. Martin having a conversation with Benji Molina over there. Fouled away. Still no balls, 2 strikes. Sardinas had not gotten off to a great start in Frisco, but when the Rangers called him up the first time. But after he got sent back, he got things together pretty well. He hit .294 in the 8 games. Drove in 4 runs. Popped up. Happily in foul territory. Makes the catch. That is out number 2. Oh, now it'll be up to SHIN-SOO CHOO if the Rangers are to extend the threat here in the 7th inning. CHOO 1 for 3, has struck out twice and doubled. Doubled over the head of Jackie Bradley Jr. in dead center field. That was the first hit of the night off of John Lester as he led off the 4th inning. Leonis Martin at first, 2 outs, and Lester sets. All the way to the backstop. Down to second as Martin. The throw came to second base after the ball bounced right back to David Ross. And that almost cost the Rangers 90 feet of real estate.
That would have been an all-timer right there. One thing if the guy on third can't score, but if a guy can't go from first to second on a ball back to the screen. Oh, he turned and fired a strike too, boy. Ross made a quick pickup and threw a strike to second. Luckily Martin had great speed because almost everybody else would have been thrown out on that one.
Exactly.
But everybody's going. You don't have it even enter your mind when the ball goes back to the screen that you might be thrown out.
And Martin made sure he was running 100% when he left too.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't take it for granted.
No.
You take that play for granted and kind of stroll into second.
He's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he easily could have taken it for granted. Just make the assumption that you're going to get to second.
There's a strike that evens the count now to CHOO at 1-1. And some double-barreled action. Junichi Tozawa, the right-hander, has gotten up and Miller has sat down. 1-1 to CHOO. Tried to wait on that breaking ball and couldn't quite make a connection. So CHOO now having to fight for his life in this at bat. A ball and 2 strikes. Now 2-2. CHOO's average at 340 as he faces Lester. 1 on, 2 out, bottom of the 7th inning. Rangers trailing 6-3. Call strike 3. Not much of an argument from CHOO as Lester painted the bottom of that strike zone. Rangers get a leadoff walk, but strand Martin. We're going to the 8th inning. It remains the Red Sox 6 and the Rangers 3 on TXA 21. A 21 Honda dealer of the game is Honda Cars of McKinney. It's a different kind of rally cap, but the message is clear. We are coming back in this game. And Justin Germano just recently called up from AAA, and he's going to come on into this ball game, see if he can keep the Red Sox at bay here in the 8th inning.
Justin was pitching well in Round Rock in a starting role. 6 games, 37 innings, only 5 walks. He's a strike thrower.
Facing the bottom third of the Red Sox order, David Ross, who has struck out a couple of times and walked. He's leading things off. Popped up into shallow center, going out Elvis, calling everybody off, and Andrus makes the catch for out number 1. Ross retired. Now Will Middlebrooks. Germano, a 31-year-old, out of Southern California, went to raised in the Claremont area. Originally selected in the 13th round of the 2000 draft by the Padres. He signed with them. Made his major league debut in 2004. Spent some time in Cincinnati, went back to San Diego, and with Cleveland, Boston, the Cubs, and Toronto. One ball, no strikes, the count to Will Middlebrooks. That single came back in the 2nd inning for the Red Sox third baseman. There's a strike. 1-1. Germano signed as a minor league free agent back this past January with the Rangers. 2-1 the count to Middlebrooks. And a hot shot, but foul outside third. That evens the count at 2 balls, 2 strikes. Middlebrooks hitting at .211. The Red Sox cite the time that Middlebrooks and Victorino missed. It kept them from having their anticipated opening day lineup. Hadn't been together until about 3 weeks ago. They both got back off the disabled list. The 2-2. That's out of play to the right. They played better, the Red Sox have, since they got everybody back. But still a work in progress. John Farrell's team is trying to get back to the 500 mark. They reached it prior to last night's game for the first time since the first week of the season.
And a player that's tough for them to replace is Jacoby Ellsbury. And he's one of the really good leadoff hitters. Guy can steal 40 bases, hit 20 home runs, knock in runs, play a great center field. He's playing for the dreaded Yankees now. They really miss him.
Pretty tough to replace that kind of production.
Yeah.
It looked like they were going to try and get Grady Sizemore and hope that he could maybe replace part of that. Middlebrooks, home plate umpire Bill Miller's going to say he got hit by the pitch. And the appeal down to first, whether he swung or not. Vic Carapazza said no. Ron Washington had started to come out to ask that question specifically. Did he swing at it? But Carapazza said no, and Bill Miller's headed hitting. Now Middlebrooks getting that hand looked at.
That's the same as a hit by pitch earlier in the game when Bradley got hit. The hitter begins his swing, can't stop his swing, and really can't get out of the way. If he keeps his bat back and he takes that pitch, you can kind of back away from the ball. But once you start your swing like that, it's tougher to back off the ball. I think Wash might come out and question whether that ball should be a hit by pitch.
Yeah, and that's one thing that can be reviewed as far as that goes, whether the pitch hit him or not. And Wash is going to ask Bill Miller, the home plate umpire, and crew chief about that specific thing. And Miller will get him to talk a little bit and say, yeah, do you want to challenge it? And Wash now is Maybe you're going to walk down the line and talk to Vic Carapazza. And Bill Miller said, no, you don't need to walk down there and talk to him. We've already decided that. Carapazza was the one that's signaled no swing. If you swing at the ball and it hits you, that's your problem.
Yep, that's your problem. You're hurt and you got to strike.
Yeah. Mike, you got to go. John Farrell on the top step of the Boston dugout. Mike Maddox is going to go out instead of Ron Washington and talk to Vic Carapazza. And Wash right behind him. Can't even venture a guess as to what they're talking about. Well, other than the hit by pitch and the swing, but.
Yeah, I don't know why Mike would have gone out unless the home plate umpire said to Wash, no, you can't go talk to him. So he said, okay, I'll send Mike Maddox out. He'll talk to him then. If he can't talk to him, I'll send someone else out there.
Well, in the meantime, Justin Germano throwing some pitches to stay loose. Dave Magadan, the hitting coach, getting involved in that too. And now we're ready to go. So 1 on, 1 out. Jackie Bradley, 1 for 2 tonight, steps to the plate. Bradley singled in the 4th inning, came around to score in that frame. Red Sox tonight 6 runs on 9 hits. Rangers 3 runs on 4 hits. Germano a check of first. Bradley pulls one in the hole on the right side. It's through for a base hit. Middlebrooks stopping at second as Joyce gets the ball back in. So a hit batter and then a ball rolled through the hole. Red Sox have runners at first and second with 1 out for Dustin Pedroia.
Second ball, Bradley's rolled into right field between first and second.
Just got word up here that Mike Maddox had been ejected by Vic Carapazza. That's what he was up there. Apparently he said something from the dugout that got under Carapazza's skin, and he threw him out, so that's why he went out to talk to him face to face.
Get you 2 cents worth.
Here's Pedroia. He has a couple of walks and a base hit. He takes a strike from Germano. Pedroia 1 for 2 tonight. When he singled in the 4th, he came around to score on Shane Victorino's base hit. The 0-1. Base hit left center field. Middlebrooks at third. He is being waved home. The throw is coming to third. And it hit the sliding Bradley, got away, and down to second goes Pedroia. The run is home. It's now a 7-3 Red Sox lead, and that ball coming in hit Bradley right on top of the helmet as he was sliding into third.
That ought to be an out.
Kind of like kickball.
Yeah, you throw the ball that far and hit a guy right in the helmet. You got to get credit for an out. That was going to be a pretty close play if Adrian was able to catch that ball. It's a strong throw from CHOO. Well, no wonder it didn't hurt. The helmet's not even on his head. That would be one. What if a hitter dives out of the way, his helmet falls off, it's not on his head, and the helmet gets hit? That can't count as a hit batter, can it?
No, it's a dead ball. Hit something other than the field itself. Yeah. So second and third, a run across. Still just 1 out here in the 8th inning. Shane Victorino, who is 3 for 4 tonight with 3 RBIs at the plate. Rangers pull the infield all the way in. And Victorino takes a strike to make it 1-1. You got Bradley at third, Pedroia at second. Pedroia took second on the throw. There was no error charged. Victorino 3 singles tonight. Line to left field and deep. CHOO is going back, reaches up and makes the catch. Bradley will tag at third, coming down to score. Into third goes PEDROIA. And Victorino, with his 4th RBI of the night, makes it an 8-3 Boston lead. They're 4-5 run difference now for the Red Sox after the Rangers have clawed their way back to get within striking distance. Rangers are going to intentionally walk David Ortiz with PEDROIA at third base. They will work right-hander against right-hander for Mike Napoli. Ortiz 2 for 4 tonight. Double and a home run. The third wide one was issued by Germano. And now the 4th wide one makes it official. The runners at the corners, 2 outs. Napoli coming to the plate 0 for 2 tonight. Justin Germano trying to get the last out of this inning. Keep it relatively close. 8-3 Boston. Napoli 2 walks, a strikeout, and a ground ball to third. Germano sets, and the pitch. 0-1. Napoli 277 with the average. $20 RBI, that has him 1 ahead of David Ortiz. And a big slow breaking ball that just missed the outside corner. A ball and a strike. Germano peers in for the sign. He gets the one he wants. And he misses low and away. It's 2-1. Germano last year appeared in just 1 ball game with the Blue Jays. Worked 2 innings in that game, gave up a couple of runs. Line drive, BELTRE knocks it down, recovers, and throws the field.
That was a rope.
That was scorched by Napoli, but BELTRE takes care of it. Red Sox have gone in the 8th where they scored 2 more times. And Strand 2. Bottom of the 8th coming up. Rangers trailing 8-3. go back to the 5th inning. Elvis Andrus trying to get the Rangers back in the game. He hit a ringing double into left center field. That scored Luis Sardinas, and Elvis with the RBI is 9th of the year. TXU Energy, inspired by you. Well, John Lester's night has come to an end, and as we go to the 8th inning, Junichi Tazawa is on to relieve him.
Tazawa has become a very good setup man for the Red Sox. His 16th ball game. Koji Uehara has moved into the closer's role. He is the closer and has done a superb job. One of the key members of their World Championship team last year. And a solid start for John Lester. 4 hits, 3 runs, 7 innings. Red Sox had not scored a lot of runs for Lester. That's why he's 3-4 on the season with the 8th best ERA in the league. But tonight they did. Gave him a comfortable cushion.
And the first pitch to Elvis Andrus, a big breaking ball that stays inside for ball 1. Elvis 1 for 3, an RBI double tonight. Facing the 27-year-old right-hander Junichi Tazawa from Yokohama, Japan. 1-0 pitch. Sliced down the right field line. It is a fair ball and headed to the corner. Nice play by Victorino to cut it off. He was playing toward the line. But Elvis telling Victorino, hey, get back where you're supposed to be. That's a double. Did a good job of cutting it off and holding Elvis to a long single.
Pretty much every ball Elvis has put in play, other than the bunt in the last 2 nights, has either been a line drive or a hard ground ball. And he keeps that alive right now. He's really made a change in his approach. Got a great pitch to hit. Man, I'll tell you what, you hold that ball to a single, you had to be shading over near the line. Either that or he got an incredible jump. Ball's right down the line in the corner. He gets it before it bounces off the wall. That's a nice play by Victorino in right field.
Now here's Beltre with 1 on, nobody out. A tapper that Tazawa takes to second. 1 first in time to double up ADRIAN. I didn't think there was any way possible for them to turn a double play there. But able to go at 1-6-3. And Beltre not able to leg out the return.
That was a nice play by Tazawa. Athletic play by the pitcher. A lot of pitchers can't make a play like this. But he catches it, turns, and throws it like an infielder. A quick release.
Take that back. That was 1-4-3.
By Pedroia at second base to get rid of that. Nice play. I don't know if that's going to be reversed or not.
Wash out there to talk to Carapazza, and they are going to take a look at it as Wash throws out the challenge. Well, the safe or out call at first base is going to be reviewed by this umpiring crew, and we'll give you some more looks at it. Ball into the glove, and don't forget now the call on the field is out. There has to be clear and convincing evidence to overturn it.
We saw that one the other night, which was just about a tie, and it was not reversed. Boy, that's close.
That is close.
That's close. They're going to have to look at that a couple times.
Now the crowd getting a look at the replay you just saw on your screens. They are seeing it here in the ballpark.
I mean, if I'm Adrian, I'm probably feeling like I was safe, but as you said, Buzz, is there enough evidence to overturn the out call?
Right.
I don't know.
Hard to tell. Now, the 3 outcomes, 3 potential outcomes that can be overruled, overturned. It is upheld within your stands without the video evidence to overturn it, or the call is confirmed, which that was, which means there was no video evidence to the contrary. It was called correctly according to the video evidence.
Well, if you wash, it's late in the ball game. Who knows if you're going to have another close play? You might as well go for it.
Yep.
Maybe you get a call.
No, base is empty. 2 away for Prince Fielder. Fielder 0 for 2 with a sacrifice fly tonight. And Bill Miller walking out in front of home plate to give the Has a little time to settle in. Prince at 227. RBI total now up to 14. A big breaking ball bends over the outside corner for strike one. Tazawa had 71 appearances last year for the Red Sox. He was 5-4 with a 3.16 ERA. Really settling in, as Tom told you, that setup role for Boston. A rip and a miss. 0-2. Right-hander is ready. And the pitch. A ball and 2 strikes. Tazawa had elbow surgery a year after signing with the Red Sox, the minor league system. 2010. He took a year or so to recover from that. And has come back throwing the ball well. Got him swinging. The fielder down on strikes. Rangers get a leadoff single, but that's erased on the double play. We're going to the 9th inning here in Arlington. It's the Red Sox 8 and the Rangers 3. You to create your own schedule. You can select the exact games you want, and it's in your fans' choice 20 game plan. Not only do you save up to 22% off box office prices, but you lock in postseason priority. For details, visit TexasRangers.com/20 game plans or call 972 Rangers extension 3. Johnny Gomes leading off. Justin Germano back to the hill after giving up a couple of runs in the 8th inning. Gomes a rip and a miss. He's down to the count now, 0-2. Gomes 1 for 4 with a 2-run single. That was back in the 4th inning. Germano's next pitch. And it's yanked foul off the screen in front of the Red Sox dugout.
Way back when, Buzz, they didn't have those screens out in front of the dugout, and everyone was diving. No one was standing up there, obviously, without anything to lean on. Everybody was back in the dugout sitting down. But those screens have saved a lot of line drives off elbows, shins, and heads in some cases.
That they have. Made it a lot safer if you're trying to sneak a sandwich or something down there, too. Don't have to worry about watching the game as much. 0-2 after a couple of foul balls to Johnny Gomes. Pulled down the left field line, but that's hooking and going into the crowd and down onto the field. Shin-Soo Choo will no doubt toss that up to the folks. Still 0-2 to Gomes. Red Sox 8 runs on 11 hits tonight. Rangers 3 runs on 5 hits. Neither ball club has committed an error. Another 0-2. That's hooked down the line and foul. Gomes is getting closer.
I think she said that's my first ball.
Be the envy of her neighborhood.
Yeah.
How many folks come home with foul balls?
Probably thinking, who can I give this to for Christmas?
1-2 to Gomes. Yeah.
I can remember I got my cousins lived in Wellesley, Massachusetts, which was near Boston, and my uncle got me an autographed ball by Ted Williams when I was probably about 8 years old.
Wow.
He gave it to me for Christmas. There's probably about a foot of snow outside. The first brand new baseball that I ever had. And I went out in the backyard and played catch with my sister with that Ted Williams ball. Had no value to me other than it was a ball to go play with. Ball had already been marked up before my father could say that's not what that ball was intended for.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until many years later that I appreciated what he was talking about.
Yeah. Gomes finally puts one in play, and BELTRE takes care of the foul pop. 1 out. Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop, 0 for 4. Takes on the inside corner for strike 1. Bogaerts at 254 now with the batting average. 21-year-old rookie is in a pretty tough streak for himself.
I think just about everybody watching the game right now can think of something that they had in their possession that they got rid of that they wish they still had today, that had value. Mine would have been that Ted Williams ball.
Yeah.
A lot of people in my generation, it was baseball cards. They collected cards, and back then they were worth a penny. You never thought they were going to be worth anything. So you never took care of them,
Sure.
never worried what kind of condition they were in. You bent them, you kept them in your pockets, threw them away. Your parents threw them away later. That's why those old cars are worth so much today. No one saved them and wondered what mint condition would ever mean.
1-2 pitch. Got him swinging.
Good slow curveball.
There's the string on the hook, and Germano gets his first strikeout. 2 gone for David Ross.
Good location with it, too. The other thing back when we were playing that you never considered you would want is your uniform.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, you probably all had opportunities to keep one of those uniforms and never even thought of it. A lot of them were recycled back to the minor leagues for the kids in the minor leagues to wear.
Sure were, yeah. I don't know about how things were with you guys and Joe Mackel or whoever was the good guy, but ours were collected regularly.
Were they?
Yeah.
You couldn't have kept them even if you wanted to.
No, it was never an option unless we. There's Joe sitting right behind home plate tonight. Unless we kind of steal one away someplace. You know?
I can remember the first year that I was in the minor leagues. I went to Plant City and I had to inventory the uniforms, and I looked at all the minor league uniforms, and they were all big league uniforms, and they had a patch over the name to block the name out. And underneath the patch was uniforms like Fergie Jenkins and Gaylord Perry. And even though the collecting business really hadn't started in earnest back then, it occurred to me that they might be worth something. And we'll finish that next half inning.
Germano gets a couple of strikeouts, sends the Red Sox down in order. Rangers with one more shot in the 9th ninth inning with Rio's Choice and Martine coming up. Is sponsored by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your Texas Ford dealer today. Ford is the best in Texas. By Globe Life, the official life insurance company of the Texas Rangers. And by TXU Energy, inspired by you. A sellout crowd, second sellout of the year on hand here tonight, watching the Rangers and the Red Sox, hoping for a Ranger comeback here in the ninth inning. And it's going to have to start against Bert Badenhop, who has come out of the bullpen to take over.
And he's had a good season so far. This will be his 16th ball game. Solid ERA. Keeps the ball in the ballpark. Only one home run in 20 innings. I'll just finish that story real quick, Buzz. So I got all the uniforms together, and I knew a guy that was a collector in Baltimore. He's a big hotshot car dealer now. Barry Wolfsheimer's his name. Anyway, Barry bought a couple hundred uniforms, and he paid us, I don't know, I'll make up a number, $5,000. And we took the money and bought all the minor league players in spring training new uniforms. The big league uniforms were, you know, kind of interesting to have, but let's face it, they were a year or two old. It was ragtag uniforms.
Sure.
So we bought all new uniforms. Minor leaguers looked great. And I'm sure Barry resold all those uniforms at a profit.
Badenhop fires a strike to Alex Rios. 1-1 the count. Can you imagine how much those would be worth now?
Yeah, I know. If he
incredible
hung on to him, he'd really have something.
And strike two. Badenhop, the 31-year-old right-hander. He was a well-traveled relief specialist. A lot of time in the National League. Back to the plate, and that misses high. Last year with Milwaukee, Badenhop was in 63 games. Before that, Tampa, 1 year, and then he was with Florida originally. Two-2 pitch. Line to center field. Bradley coming on and makes the catch just high. All hung up for him, and Alex Rios a hard out. One away, and Mitch Moreland is going to come up as a pinch hitter for Michael Joyce. Moreland has done a great job pinch hitting in particular. He has been swinging the bat very well of late no matter what, but he's 5 for 7 as a pinch hitter this year. He had 4 singles in his last 5 at bats. That's first in the American League in pinch hits. Badenhop with a 1-0 pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike. Moreland, a 5-game hitting streak overall. He's gone 7 for 11. That's a .636 average. And a backdoor breaking ball. 1-2. Mitch with 6 hits in his last 11 times to the plate, covering 5 games. Also driven in 3 in that span. Gets fisted by Badenhop and shoots one foul to the left. Marlins average at a season high .308. So the 1 home run and 12 runs driven in. Rangers trailing by a handful. They need some base runners. Moreland trying to get that started. 2-2. Badenhop has the sign he wants, and the right-hander is ready. And Moreland, foul tip into the glove of Ross for the strikeout. 2 gone. A reminder tomorrow, a 2:05 game on Mother's Day. Robbie Ross Jr. and the Abilene native John Lackey. Right-hander on the hill for the Red Sox. Fastball inside. And it looks like if Badenhop can get this last out, it'll be set up a rubber game tomorrow afternoon. .1-0 pitch. Knee-high strike. If Leonis Martin is able to keep this ball game going, Rougned Odor is grabbing a bat, getting ready in the on-deck circle. Topper down the first baseline, foul as Napoli fields it. 1-2.
Well, Wash has said he's going to try to get Rougned playing time 4 or 5 times a week. I would imagine the times he doesn't play will be against tough left-handed pitchers like John Lester. But in the meantime, Luis Sardinas stepped in and got a line drive to right field for a base hit today. Sardinas is regarded as a very good defensive player, especially at shortstop. Runs well.
Two balls, 2 strikes. Badenhop ready. And another foul ball pulled down the first base side. The Rangers with Odor and Sardinas, a pair of 20-year-olds. That's the first time the Rangers have had a pair of players under 21 since the early 90s. 1991 was the last time. Another 2-2 on the way. Base hit to right field.
Gonna get Odor in the back.
Odor will get a shot at Badenhop as that pitch stayed up. And Leonis Martin, with his first hit of the night, he has now hit safely in 12 straight ball games here at home.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please for the Rangers number 73, Rougned Odor.
Odor announced as the pitch hitter for Robinson Chirinos. Rougned 1 for 8, had his first major league hit last night's ball game. It was a 4th inning single off of Clay Buchholz. Leonis Martin at first, not being held on to the first pitch, is outside to Odor. Badenhop back to the plate and fouled away. Martin was moving on the pitch. He'll have to retrace his steps. Without Napoli holding him on, Leonis is going to take the extra base to wipe out any chance of a force play at second. 1 ball, 1 strike. And the breaking ball stays outside, and this time Martin just waltzes into second base on defensive indifference. Odor getting back in the batter's box. Leonis Martin, the lead from second. 2-1 pitch. Ground ball, base hit to the left side. And a stop sign is put up for Leonis Martin at third. And a good job by Rougned Odor going the other way with that Baden-Hop pitch. For a pinch hit single with 2 outs in the ninth. And that's going to do it for Baden-Hop. Well, John Farrell not wasting any time.
Not taking any chances.
Ball solidly struck right through the hole on the left side. But Baden-Hop gets the first 2 outs, then gives up back-to-back singles. And that's going to force Luis Sardinas to face, looks like Andrew Miller coming in, the left-hander. 8-3 the score. The Rangers making some noise with 2 outs here in the ninth. Back after this on TXA 21. Left-hander Andrew Miller has been summoned from the Red Sox bullpen to take over with runners at first and third and 2 outs here in the bottom of the ninth inning.
Yeah, Andrew Miller's got some pretty striking statistics so far this year. This will be his 17th ball game. 14 2/3 innings, 20 strikeouts. Opponents are only hitting 170 against him. Big, tall, lanky guy with a great arm.
Out of the University of North Carolina. And the first pitch to Luis Sardinas is right down the middle for strike 1.
Yeah, coming out of college, I think everybody felt like he was going to be an all-star left-handed starting pitcher for many years to come. Hasn't worked out quite that way for him, but he's an important part of the Red Sox bullpen right now. Doing a nice job for him.
Miller basically came right out of college and went to the big leagues with the Tigers.
Yeah, he did.
It was 2006. Got him swinging. Well, Miller makes short work of Luis Sardinas, and the Rangers tried to come back in the ninth, but come up short in the final 8-3 tonight as the Red Sox even up this series. John Lester gets the win, and Martin Perez takes his 3rd consecutive loss. So the Rangers had their 2-game winning streak snapped. They are back now to 1 game over 500 at 19-18, and it sets up the rubber game of this 3-game series tomorrow afternoon. We'll be back to Globe Live Park to wrap things up right after this on TXA 21.